Todd Lyons is with us now. He is the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director. He's the head guy at ICE. We're sorry for everything you guys are going through, Todd, and we thank you for your courage and willingness to serve every day. So thank you. Let's start there.
Thanks. I really appreciate it.
How is everybody?
Obviously everyone's really, shaken up. It's a hard time right now. Unfortunately, there's so many threats against ICE agents and officers up over, assaults are up over 1,000%. I've never seen anything like this in my career. But it's not going to deter the men and women of ICE. I can tell you, out in Dallas today, they're out there doing enforcement operations, trying to get those criminal alien fugitives. So these kind of acts won't deter us, but it's definitely scary times.
It is. I heard from two large people in my business that do what I do last night. And both of them said the same thing, unbeknownst to each other, that they were both writing me, but they were both saying the same thing. Glenn, this is not going to stop me, but I'm afraid. I mean, this is getting really bad. Every time I walk outside or I walk to some meeting or some stage thing, I'm afraid somebody's going to shoot me. And it's normal and natural, but it's those who continue to do it every day that deserve our applause and our deep, deep thanks. Do we have any new intelligence about the shooter? The motives, the networks, anything?
No, so right now the FBI is doing great in their investigation. They're going down following every lead, social media post, his associates, family. There's going to be a press conference today at 1:30 with the U.S. Attorney down there in Dallas, so I don't want to get too far ahead of that. But obviously, Director Patel posted that photo yesterday of the shell casings that had anti-ICE. Just from I used to serve at the Dallas field office. That's where I started my career. And just looking at the photos from the scene, it's obvious this was an anti-ICE attack. It was an attack on ICE law enforcement. He indiscriminately shot all the windows on the backside of the building, the lobby doors. One thing that I think is kind of lost on a lot of it, too, is that the detainees weren't out of the vehicle. So he didn't know who was in those vehicles. He was just shooting at ICE vehicles. Those detainees were shot inside the vehicles. And I'm so proud of the men and women that were on the ground there, because ICE officers and agents were actually on the fire, but they went back to that Sally Port and they, rescued those detainees that were in those vans and started giving aid to those 3 that were injured. But yeah, just looking at, from what I've seen already, this was a pure attack on ICE law enforcement and ICE's mission.
How do you respond to some on the left and even those in the media on the left that are now saying that's ridiculous? He wouldn't have put anti-ICE on the bullets. That's the government trying to soup this up. This guy was clearly going after the immigrants, the illegals.
Yeah, it's disgusting and vile to even think that, media outlets or elected officials would want to think that or kind of spin that. If you just look at the whole scene itself and the whole situation, it was directed at ICE. He just didn't randomly pick that building one day. You know the area. He knew where it was. And when you think about the shooting, you had I-35 right there, people going to school, going to work. That's a high-powered rifle. Those rounds went through the windows, wound up inside the lobby, inside the back walls, buried an American flag. He could have killed so many innocent people in that area, but he specifically chose that ICE facility. And for anyone to think that this wasn't targeted on ICE and ICE law enforcement officers, then they're dead wrong.
So the Trump administration is now going after Antifa as a terrorist group. Thank God, finally. But there's also groups like the Socialist Rifle Association. We were going to talk about the John Brown Club that just put flyers out on the campus of Georgetown University. Hey, fascist, catch. The only political group that celebrates when Nazis die. Join the John Brown Club. Can you tell me the effects you think this and what we might be able to stop by going after some of these groups?
And that's, we are dedicated to the president's mission on that. One component of ICE is Homeland Security investigations. We have some of the best special agents, criminal investigators. We are going to track the money. We are going to track these ringleaders, if you will, right? I can give you an example. We had protests this weekend in Chicago doing our Operation Midway Blitz, and you hear a lot of elected officials say they're out there protesting, they're out there exercising their First Amendment right. But you don't go there and truck in shields, rocks, CS grenades, tear gas grenades, right? That isn't the First Amendment. That right there is just domestic terrorism. And that's what we're focused on. We're focusing on those people that are supporting these groups, those people that are bringing in the material support. When you look at half the people that were arrested for interfering with ICE operations, they're not from the local Chicago area. These people are coming from outside the local area who have no ties to the community. So these are professional agitators that are being brought in to impede or hurt my officers and agents. And we're dedicated that we're going to go out there and stop these. And we're so happy that President Trump has made Antifa a terrorist organization, because we're going to use all of our law enforcement powers to go ahead and stop these attacks.
There was a really despicable thing that came from Ilhan Omar. I think it was from Ilhan Omar, where she said that ICE was holding a 5-year-old autistic girl in Massachusetts to pressure the father to surrender. That's NBC reported it that way. Yesterday, NBC completely changed their story and reflected that. Can you comment on what really happened?
Yeah, that was just pure ignorance on that outlet's part. That was not the case at all. This father, who obviously isn't going to win Father of the Year, was in a vehicle that had his daughter. The ICE officers and agents did not know the child was in there. They conducted a traffic stop. He fled the car. He fled the car and left the girl there. Pretty much, gave the ICE officers and the agents involved and the other federal partners two middle fingers and told them, come get me. And he would not leave the residence, even though we called, tried to coordinate, tried to negotiate. One great thing is the local police chief just came out in the Boston Herald and totally backed our story, that our officers were great, took care of the girl, that this criminal alien was totally in the wrong. So it's that type of narrative that's out there, really, that's spinning up all this violence and hate against my brave men and women, is when stories like this totally get distorted. And most of the public, unless people like yourself or other outlets kind of report on it, would never know what the true story is. They would always just think that ICE agents and officers are so evil that they would hold a 5-year-old autistic girl hostage, if you will, right, to try to arrest her dad.
I saw the pictures that they finally published, or before in the earlier story it said ICE surrounded this. She was surrounded by agents who were holding her. And then the pictures are released, and there's one guy, I don't even know if he was an ICE agent, but there was one guy kind of standing near her. She was sitting on the bumper of a truck drinking water. It was completely not what they tried to make it appear. Let me play a piece of audio for you. Came from Tuesday night, and get your response. We're talking to Todd Lyons. He's U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director. Listen to this. Gavin Newsom on Stephen Colbert.
That's happening in the United States of America. Masked men jumping out of unmarked cars, people disappearing, no due process, no oversight, zero accountability, happening in the United States of America today. People ask, well, is authoritarianism, you're being hyperbolic? Bull, we're being hyperbolic. If you're a black and brown community, it's here in this country. And so I'm deeply proud that I had the privilege of signing the nation's first bill to address the issue of masking, also to require you have simple identification, to your point. I mean, if some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government. You saw what Stephen Miller said last week. This should put chills up spine. Called the Democratic Party an extremist organization. Basically a terrorist organization.
Well, he's just catching up with Barack Obama, what he said in 2009 about the Republicans. Anyway, Todd, do you have any response to that?
Yeah, and honestly, I think the governor's comments are disgusting. Criminal illegal aliens flock to his state because they know they can do their crimes there. He said that, and then the next day, look what happened at the ICE facility in Dallas. He's saying that he would push back against masked men or jump out of a van. Well, and also he says that people don't get due process. Every one of the individuals we arrest do get due process. Or in the cases of the ones that have final orders of deportation from years back that they've ignored the rule of law, they had their due process, had every appeal possible, but they didn't leave the country. Yet it's comments like that that are causing all the issues. I truly believe the governor shouldn't have said that. To say that people should push back and he supports pushing back against ICE, that's just totally wrong.
Why do you have ICE markings or police markings on your vest or anything? Do you jump out of a van with no markings?
No, that would never ever happen. I'm very proud of my media affairs, my public affairs, and our social media team. We always post the worst of the worst. We always post what we're doing in the field. You see our arrest videos. The ICE agents and officers clearly marked. They have their badges on them. They have their badge numbers. They have what agency they work for. When the other federal partners are with us, you can see clearly it's either ATF or DEA. So it's a false narrative that's being put out there. And I would just say to any elected official, do a little bit of homework. I'd invite them to look at our social media page and actually see what we are doing. Or better yet, even sit down and have a conversation with myself or other field leaders on the ground, or come out and actually see one of our operations.
It's sad because they already know this. I mean, that's the real sad part is they know this. He's not stupid. He knows what's going on. And he also knows why. I mean, you tell me, why are ICE agents masking themselves?
Well, I can tell you this, and it's happened to me, me and my family. ICE officers and agents get doxxed and threatened continually. And I can tell you that we did a large operation with the U.S. Secret Service in the governor's state, in California, in Los Angeles, where there was individuals that were taking photos using enhanced AI technology, identifying them, posting their families' Instagrams, their kids' Instagrams, their addresses on telephone poles. Just in California, we had a deportation officer get followed to his residence while he was picking up his wife and kid to go to dinner and get attacked in his own driveway. That is why they have to wear masks. I'm not a fan of masks. They're not a fan of masks. It's hot. It's uncomfortable. But I will support them to make sure that they get home safe every night and that their families are safe.
Yeah, I would wonder why the governor hasn't ruled out all masks. I mean, I see the people fighting against you all the time. They're always masked.
Yeah, and that's one of my biggest frustrations is here you go, you're taking the time to write a law in a state, yet we were out there battling night after night, protesters in masks, helmets that were causing so much damage and so much violence in the city of Los Angeles, yet nothing is said about that. And it's almost they're champions for fighting back against us and what our mission we were doing. It's disgusting.
Todd Lyons. Todd, sincerely, we know what you're risking. We know what all of you are risking, and we thank God that you're doing it so we don't have to. But we pray for you, and we deeply, deeply appreciate everything you guys are doing. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you letting me tell the story of the brave men and women of ICE.
You got it. Todd Lyons, U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Acting Director. He's the big bad fascist that everyone is worried about, and boy, doesn't he sound frightening.